Hi, Old Bones here from AusBSA Bandoms, and welcome to this episode. As you can see, we've got a few bikes and things happening in the workshop at the moment, but in this episode what we're going to focus on is a girder fork restoration I did for a 1938 Velocette. So the first little bit of this video I lost. I think I had an SD card failure or something, I don't know why. But anyway, it picks it up where I am starting to make the bushes to rebush all this girder fork setup. This girder fork setup was given to me with incorrect parts. I had a parts list, a very old parts list, but that's all the information I could get. I haven't got another set of forks to compare things with, so I've probably used a little bit of artistic license in a couple of places, but it's turned out really well. So keep watching and you'll see the troubles I had, and I had some troubles. Right, just before I start drilling, you can see right on the edge here, I've actually ground the drill to a zero rake. Now I do that with all drills I'm using in brass, bronze and cast iron. Put a zero rake on it, stops chattering, and it drills a whole heap better. So if you haven't ever done it, try that trick because it works really, really well. Drills a lot better hole. Alright, so I hope the camera works alright. So what I'm going to do now is face it, take my first, take a little mark. I'll use the dial indicator with digital readout just to get my depth, how far down I'm going. And then I will send a drill and then finish the diameter. Just changing it to imperial, 1.5 inches. Alright, so our outside diameter, we've taken our first cut. And we have 20 thou on that. So I'm going to take 2 10 thou cuts. So I've got my center drill in, and I'm just about to start drilling. A bit fast. I'm going to slow that speed down. So we've got it drilled. I'm just about to part off, and as per my drill bit, this is a zero rake. This is a zero rake parting off tool. It hasn't got a positive rake on it, a zero rake. So as I said before, I use this for bronze, brass and cast iron. Right, a bit far. Rightio. I backed it out and just put a chamfer on it. And then we'll go through and part it off. I've put a chamfer in that end, and obviously I'll turn it around and I'll put an internal chamfer in that end. But that's our bush done. You can see a little bit of sand mark there because it was about half a thou up. So I've just polished it up one end a little bit. Now the other thing I've done is actually I've drilled it to the nominal size of the spindle that's going through it, and the reason for that is I've got about 3 thou crush on this bush when it gets pushed in, so that should close up on it and I won't have to ream a whole heap out. If I went down to the size under 1/2 inch, I'd have a fair bit of reaming to do, so that'll work well. So I've got the bushes made up. You can see them over there. You can also see that they've got letters on them, and there's a very good reason for that. That's one drawing. And that's the other drawing. Because every single hole in all of these is actually different. And those over there, there's only 2 holes that are the same. And when we're talking a variation up to 10 thou. So in metric, like that's a quarter of a millimetre difference in hole size. So I don't know what happened at the Velocette factory back in the 30s, but they must have been using bloody near different drill sizes or worn out drills or whatever. Anyway, so I've unfortunately had to make up bespoke outside diameter bushes, obviously the same inside diameter, because I really do want to get the correct crush pressure on each bush. So therefore I've had to do up a little drawing for where they go, but we got there in the end and they're looking really well. So it's a bit late now, so tomorrow I shall press the bushes in and we will start reaming and get the spindles in. So what I'm doing now is pressing all these bushes in. Now I have linished just the tiniest little chamfer around there. I probably could have filed it up while it was in the lathe, just as a lead in to make sure this bush is nice and square. I'm feeling square on the bottom of this. I'll centralise it and then we'll start pressing the bush in. So it's going in nicely without shaving too much bronze off it. That's going really well. So what we'll do is we'll keep going around, press all the bushes in all the way around. I've got a little dolly that I've got to put in. You can see just a tiny little bit of bronze there. That's sheared off at the back, but that's pretty good. So what I've also got to do now is go around and press the bushes into the forks. So we'll do that, but I need Justin to give me a hand to do that, just to square everything up. I've run out of hands. So we've got all our bushes pressed in to everything and that went really well. So what I'm doing now is actually reaming out the bushes to size. So adjustable reamer. As a cutting fluid for non-ferrous metals like this, I use kerosene, and we just slowly just go up size by size and just ream it out till we get the right size. I don't think you can pick it up on the camera, but it's really nice using a nice sharp reamer when you can hear it just shaving smallest amount off. Yes, I'm doing the wrong thing by pulling a reamer out the hole it's gone through. Usually poke them through, but this we should be getting very close. Oh, yeah, very, very close. Maybe one more adjustment and we'll be there. So I've got to go through, ream out all the bushes on everything, reassemble, and then that way I can line up my spindles to be able to manufacture the nuts for everything and get my spindle lengths with the trim back the overhang that I purposely put into it so I can set everything up. We'll keep going. Alright, we've hit some major drums, and what's happened is the holes that the bushes go into are not in alignment with each other. On this one they sort of both have that angle, so I noticed it when I was reaming, and so obviously I haven't got a reamer long enough to go through and line ream the whole lot, and even if I could, it'd have to take out about 2 millimeters of material. It's that badly out of alignment. So what I'm going to have to do is set it up in the milling machine and actually bore them. So what I've made up here is this little contraption that will fit through. And what we'll do because this has got the cone shapes on it, that will pick up the true axis of these from these faces here, which is where you want them, because you want them to be dead square to those faces, because you've got these little thrust washers that fit in there. So this surface here, I'll use a dial indicator on here to run that up and down to make sure that I've got my vertical and make sure it's absolutely dead in alignment with the holes, and I'm going to bore the holes out. So that way they'll be in alignment. I didn't envisage having this much trouble, but there you go. So it's got me a bit perplexed how they built it originally. So I can't see a reamer. They must have like drilled the bush out all the way through, then line reamed it, because that's the only way you can do it with these holes in here that the bushes go into being so far out of alignment. Ah, the joys, eh? So what we've got here is the top yoke that we're setting up. I've just dialed it in. You can see over here, this brass stuff is actually shim stock. So clamping it up in the vise, it's just a tiny bit out. So I've just shimmed one side of the vise just so I can get this perfectly in the vertical plane. So this is all set up and really good now. So time to drop the bore and bar in, and we will start boring it out. So I've got our top yoke in vertical alignment both ways, and now what I'll do is I'll just set up the dial indicator, pick up the inside bore bush, centralise it, lock up the table, bore and bar in, and off we'll go. Well, that's a bit silly, isn't it? It's already touching. Right, what I'm trying to do here is give you an idea of how far out of alignment these are. You can just see the big gap at the bottom and how it's touching up the top. It's the best I can do with the light available. But I've just bored out, and it was actually worse than that. So I've just finished boring out the other side, and I'm about to turn it around. So hopefully this will come up all right. So as you can see there, I've got my dial indicator on my end piece. I've dialed it up and down in the vertical 90 degrees to each other. So we're all set to throw the boring head in, take this out and have a go at trying to straighten up these bushes. But yeah, it's worked pretty well. So we've had some success. I was able to, because the bushes weren't all the way out to this nominal diameter. We have been able to bore it back into alignment. And there we have it. Nothing in that. Just got a nice light drag on it, so I am very, very, very happy. A lot of dicking around. But now we've got to do it to all the rest of them, so the forks are going to be a bit challenging to set up, but at least we've got the recipe to have a successful outcome, so that's good. We'll keep going. So as you can see, we've got the fork set up on the mill now. Our top yoke worked really well. I'm really happy with that. That was a pretty good recovery. I couldn't get over how much of the side of the bush it took out, but I ended up just finishing the last little bit off with a hand scraper. And it's firm, but it rotates nicely, so very happy with that. Now, so in order to get all this in alignment, we've got a couple of issues. The fork tubes are tapered. I can't pull down too hard, obviously, because they're tube, and I'll crush them. So I'm just starting to shim up now to get the horizontal all lined up, and then once I've got that done, we'll shim it to get it that way. So there's going to be a little bit of time spent shimming this up, but anyway, I haven't really got any other options. But so far so good. If what happened with the other top and bottom yoke, well, actually, are they a top and bottom yoke on a girder fork? I don't know. Anyway, top and bottom yoke, they've gone really, really well, so I'm pretty confident I can get these. So I've got all this set up and dialed in, and it actually didn't take that long at all. 3 adjustments on shims, and I had it all spot on. And it doesn't usually happen like that, trust me. It usually takes a lot longer, but anyway, I'm happy. So now we're going to go through and start boring. So morning after the day before. So yesterday was very successful. I'm very happy with the outcome that we've achieved. And as with all jobs like this, you overcome one challenge and find another. So from here, what I've got to do is that this friction dampening setup, rebound, this plate here actually has to be threaded in the holes that go through these two spindles. And the reason for that is that these will have a square drive on the end of it, so when you adjust this, you just back the nut off here. These spindles in this link can actually rotate. They're through holes, they're not threaded. So you can adjust this shaft, and that will pull in and side load up all your links against all your yokes and your frame. Same deal up this end. I've actually got this back the front. So these will have square drives on there, so be able to pull up and preload it. The big problem is these forks, I reckon, have been in a crash. All those linkages are all bent. So it's pretty crucial that where these sections are, where they contact here, they've got to be dead square. You can't have them offline like that. So I'm going to have to straighten them out as best I can, and it may be that I put it on the surface grinder and surface grind them. So the hole and the face relationship are dead parallel, but just when you think you're getting on top of things, you don't. But anyway, we'll keep progressing it. Alrighty, back over here, we have our top links. I have just straightened those out very successfully and I'm very happy. However, this is the bottom link. So if we get something to centralise the top. And if you can look in there, these things are a different hole centre. So the distance from here to here is different between this one and this one. So what I'm going to have to do is set up, put a bolt through this end here and bore the whole lot through. You can see this hole looks offset anyway from the centre of the boss. So bore it all the way through, and then these have to have an insert put in with the cycle thread, because this is the side that actually adjusts up. Well, it actually goes that way and pulls up, and this is the other link on top, so it's got to adjust up as well. Sorry, that's the link that spins on the other side. This is the link that adjusts up your preload. So we'll get into that. So what we've done, I just had this up on the mill with a boring head, and I have bored out a hole central to the boss on this, and it's obviously about the right hole centers. It's pretty hard to pick up what the actual center is, but I sort of used a nominal size, which was pretty close to 4 inches, so I figured that was probably the distance. Anyway, so what I'm going to do now is machine up a couple of inserts to go in here to take the 1/2 inch cycle thread for the pins that go through, and I'm going to actually bronze them in. I was a little bit concerned about having to take too much meat out of this to clean the hole up. You can see there's a little bit of bronze left in there where they've obviously bronzed these holes up, but we'll get these inserts done and get them in. So what we have there are our bottom links. I've made up inserts. You can see this hole down here is the hole size that we need, but that one had to be bored out for the center distance. Interestingly enough, when I started boring this out, it was already sleeved. It actually had a sleeve in it, just pressed in, just a steel one. So anyway, those inserts have been made up and pressed in. You can see I've got a big chamfer around the periphery of them, and the reason for that is I'm actually going to bronze these in. So because they are a press fit, really, if you were going to bronze them and want them bronzed all the way around, you'd leave a bit of clearance to get a bit of capillary action going down the side, but the critical thing is these centerline distances, so I want to maintain that, so I'll just run a bit of bronze around each of these. So the bronzing of the links went really well. That obviously the bronze line around there is where I really chamfered it to get some bronze into it. You can see they're a bit shinier. I've put these on a flat surface with some wet and dry to take out that error or twists, and it had a bit in it. But anyway, we've got those done. So we've just been fitting these on, and everything is starting to really line up well. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to go ahead and make the nuts so I can clamp everything up and just check like thread overhangs out of the nut once everything's done up to make it look nice and neat. I mean, these are some of the original pins, but they're not right. They're obviously off something else. So we're actually making headway today, which is really good. So we'll get to make the nuts up to get this all actually bolted up. Hopefully I can spin them without too much drama and get all this position right. So I've machined the nuts all up. I don't know whether you can pick it up in the camera, but you might see a line around there. So what I've done is I've machined a relief in the back, which means that where the hex is, I've actually machined it down a bit. So there's just a full contact pad there. So especially when all these links and that are going to get painted, that stops the edges of your nut chewing up all the paint. So I've done that on all of them. So 4 3/8 cycle thread, 2 7/16 and 1 1/2 inch cycle thread. So now it's time to put it together and see what the lengths are going to be on all our spindles. So we've got issues. Both of these links, not only were they bent, they're twisted. So I am going to have to put them in the vise and try and give them a bit of a tweak just to get them back into alignment. I don't know whether you'll be able to pick it up on the camera. I doubt it, but it's definitely out. Anyway, we'll have to fix it. So we've got our links straightened out, and they straighten out pretty easily. So I'm pretty happy about that. What I'm doing now is just setting up the milling machine just so I can mill the square, well, spanner drives on the end of each of the spindles. So what I'm doing now is milling the flats on the end of the spindles, and these flats are 5/16 square. So we'll just keep cutting that through. Let it do a little back cut. I've already got one done that's come out really well. So we'll just keep progressing it. And then we'll be able to put it together because everything's done then. All the machining's done. And there's all our square drives milled onto the ends of the spindles. So everything's done and we're ready to assemble. So all the parts I've made are all these washers, nuts, this part for your dampening, that scrap in the bin, and the spindles. Obviously reworking all the linkages. You can see the bronzing here, realigning it. So all there is to do now, as I said, is to put it together. So fingers crossed everything lines up and actually goes all right, but we'll get stuck into it. I'll put it all together. I won't bore you to tears how I put it together, but I will show you how you adjust it all up. And the reason for that is if it doesn't go together properly, that's it. Well, I've had enough. This has taken 5 days to get to this stage, so hopefully all goes well. So our bottom linkage is in. I haven't adjusted it up, but it's so far so good. So our rebound mechanism is back on. And still progressing well. Touch wood. Wrong one, 1/2 inch. I'll probably end up putting a washer under this, but for the time being, I just want to get it together. Oh, next some thrush washers first. So I've got it all back together and it's looking pretty good. So to adjust these up, this is why these bronze thrust washers are there. You see that one's a little bit firm, this one's a bit loose, which means everything has to go that way. So we're just back to lock that off. In this link here, remember it's a through hole, they're threaded in those links. So we can adjust it up to pull it up a bit tighter, and we've adjusted it the wrong way. It's starting to firm up, so that's tight on there. I can still spin it, which is the whole idea. Tiny bit more. Well, that's tight, and that's tight. Back that off just a fraction. This nut might have done up a bit. Oh, here we go. Right, so now I'm going to do the two lock nuts up. And double check again. So that's too tight, so I've got to back it off and keep going. But we've got really nice movement, and even that's a bit tight, but it just feels really, really good. I'm so happy, I can tell you. So for your rebound, obviously you've got a spring down in here. So this big spring fits in between here, down through there. And your rebound is actually a set of friction plates, so you can, with this little wheel here, wind in your friction to compress the little star spring in there on these little fibre plates that are in here. But obviously I'll back sorry about all the rattling and banging. Obviously I'll back that off while I'm trying to adjust it all up, but I'm really happy because it just feels fantastic. There's absolutely nothing in it. And I haven't fully adjusted, I haven't even done those yet. So I'll adjust it up, and I am a very, very happy man. It just feels really good. It's just the ever slightest bit of drag on it, which is what I want. And this hasn't had grease pumped into it yet either, so it's a really good outcome. And the other thing too is like alignment for your within the forks for your head stem and everything like that looks spot on, considering how bent and twisted everything was. Oh, I'm really happy. A lot of work in that. Spring's back in, and that's our girder fork restoration now complete. It's been a pretty big job. So I had no planned, no original parts, but the person who owns it had no idea if the parts are right or wrong or whatever. But anyway, we've got a really good outcome. I'm really happy with the job. As I said, it took 5 days to do it. So this one's out. It's nearly time for a beer. So to all my subscribers, thanks very much. I really, really appreciate your support. If you haven't clicked like or subscribe, please do. Seeing the tally of subscribers tick over gives you a bit of motivation to put these videos together. And we've actually just clicked over 500 subscribers, which is fantastic. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. And what else is going on in the workshop? We've got a customer engine in at the moment that Justin's pulled down and going through the checklist to make sure everything's all right. It's actually a really, really early YD engine, and it's in really good nick. I don't think it certainly hasn't been flogged around a paddock. Like the gearbox is just about perfect in it. So, however, there's some dramas with that. Someone snapped the crankcase drain plug off and tried to drill it out and just made an absolute mess. So we've got a job on there. Hope you've enjoyed it. And thanks very much once again. So from Justin and I, BSA Bandems, we'll see you later.